Welcome to Advance Inspire, a series of videos made to help you, to inspire you to keep sharing the good news with the world. With me, Luis Cardozo and Ben Jack.
On today's episode, we have part 2 of our Egypt special, and we're going to be checking out an amazing outreach event that happened in Egypt that saw hundreds upon hundreds of people respond to the gospel. And I'm really excited for you to see some of the things that I got to see firsthand last year over there in Egypt. Check it out. Juju is an Egyptian evangelist whose face we can't show you because his outreach to Muslims in the country is actually illegal. All believers are called to die to themselves when they follow Christ, but for Juju, this took a literal turn of events. How did you step into the calling of the evangelist?
When I was a teenager, I was living a life far away from Jesus. I was rebellious, I was against him, but it took him to let me die to bring me back to him. At the age of 16, I died with my blood sugar because I'm type 1 diabetic, and I heard God's voice saying, "It's not time yet, son." And ever since, I started asking, why am I alive? What do you want me to do here? And the more I asked it, the more I got to know him, and I knew that I have a message to give to people. At the age of 18, I went to the first missions mobilization conference, and they talked about reaching out to Muslims, and my heart moved, and I felt God is calling me to go to those people and tell them about the hope we have in Jesus. And I started my work as an evangelist here in Egypt, and God not just called me for Muslims in Egypt, but to go to the neighboring Muslim countries as well. And I've been going and leading teams going to the rest of the Middle East and to the Muslim world, telling them about Jesus and sharing the gospel and the good news with them. And one of the costs that you always need to count is being persecuted, maybe thrown to jail, because it's illegal to share the gospel with Muslims here. One time I was taken in for interrogation by the police because they heard that I'm connected to some evangelism ministry to Muslims. You might lose your life, you might lose your acceptance, you might be rejected, but it's all for Jesus. He did that for us, so we counted joy.
Whether facing the threat of severe persecution or not, anyone who wants to take the proclamation of the gospel seriously is going to need support, and that's exactly what Advance seeks to do. Pastor Samer leads Kasser El Dabara Church and is the organizer of the Minya outreach. I asked him how he spots the evangelists within his church community.
I think it's not difficult to recognize the gift of evangelism because the evangelist all the time trying to reach the unreached. His passion to go to the sinners, not to the believers. But of course, in my church, I can recognize this guy is an evangelist. This lady is a good evangelist. Through the evangelist, you win people to Christ. They are the tool to bring people to Christ. And this is number one task, number one calling for the church, to win people and then to disciple them. Without the evangelist, we will not win people to Christ.
As a pastor, Samer wants to lead and disciple his congregation well, but he also has an evangelistic heart, which means that he is compelled to put on an outreach just like this one here in Minya, of which he's partnering with the Luis Palau Association to work together to see the gospel proclaimed clearly and powerfully to all in attendance.
And you can meet God here this evening, وتقدر تقابله هنا في هذا المساء, and He will transform your life.
Wow, so the gospel has been proclaimed and the invitation has been offered. In this place, we've seen hundreds of people stand to their feet to say, Jesus, I want you to be Lord of my life. Right now, Andrew Palau is down the front and he's about to pray over all of these young people that you can see coming towards us now, young people who want to go deeper in their relationship with Jesus. And this is the heart of the evangelist. This is the identity of the evangelist, to call people into new life. We're seeing that happen right now. Thanks for joining us in Egypt as we've been exploring the identity of the evangelist. There are many different types of evangelists doing evangelism in many different ways across the world, but they're all utterly single-minded in their desire to see the lost come back into relationship with Jesus. But of course, it's not just the evangelist, as we've been hearing, who needs to do evangelism. Actually, evangelism is the business of every Christian. Why? Well, this is why. That as they hear, they would turn from rebellion to relationship, from death to life, to move into the fullness of true life in relationship with Jesus. Worship, as Moses said to Pharaoh, let my people go so that they may worship me. Witness to worship. We'll see you next time. Luis, it was so amazing to be present when that gospel appeal was made and so many people came forward. And I can't describe the joy of being present when you can see people not just coming forward because they've heard something that sounds attractive or appealing. You look in people's eyes and you speak to them and you can see that a change has taken place. You can see that something profoundly spiritual and life-altering has happened. And yet the reality of it is, there are many people out there that think that's the only way to do evangelism. A big platform, big altar call, people come to the front. But the truth is that most people aren't going to see evangelism like that in their day-to-day life. So for the average person, what is our evangelism more likely to look like, and how can we take responsibility for those kind of moments in our daily walk?
Yeah, definitely. There are two things that I like to say about this, Ben, is that one, some people think that evangelism is only done from a platform to hundreds of people. And some other people think that evangelism is only done one-to-one, and that is not evangelism. I would say that both are evangelism. So if you preach from a platform, great, that can be an evangelistic message and can be awesome. If you do a one-to-one, don't despise that. That is evangelism. Yeah. And that is where Jesus will manifest himself as well, and people will be knowing the truth of the gospel. So the truth is, people needs to know that God wants to bless. No matter where you are, with whom you are, God wants to use you to bless and communicate the gospel. One-to-one or to hundreds at the same time. The willingness of God is to reach and save the lost.
Yeah, I think of the biblical story of the Transfiguration. Jesus goes up the mountain, he takes his three buddies, Peter, James, and John with him, and they have this incredible encounter, and Jesus is transfigured, and his glory is revealed, and it's so powerful. And of course, Peter then wants to stay up there, and he wants to build a shrine essentially up there that can remember this moment and bask in its glory. And Jesus is like, no, we've got to go back down into the valley. Ultimately, Jesus is going to go back into the valley to die for us and be resurrected. And I think that sometimes these big platform experiences can work as a bit of a mountaintop for us. It's great to go, not least because people will hear the gospel and be able to respond to its truth and begin their discipleship journey. But for those of us that are already Christians, to go and not treat those as, great, this is how it should always be done, mountaintop, this is the perfection. No, it's like, let that be an encouragement of God's glory, that you can then come down the mountaintop from that into your daily life and actually live out that glory in your daily life, one-to-one with people, just as effectively. In fact, in many ways more effectively. We know the statistics tell us the majority of people that come to faith do so through personal relationship.
That's it. And is that three people in the Bible that really inspire me? Is the Samaritan woman, the demon-possessed guy in the Gadarene guy, and the blind man that Jesus healed. All of them had an amazing encounter with Jesus. And all of them wanted to follow him and go and do all things. And Jesus said, go back and share with people in your city, in your locality. And a lot of people believed in Jesus because of their transformation. So that's our message. Go and share whatever you are in the way that you can, and people will know. And today, Ben, I would like to talk about your book. The latest one called My Lord and My God, an invitation to devotion for a world in doubt. And I need to confess, guys, you can go to Amazon and buy this book or other platforms as well. But when I read this book, it's really, really transformed the way that I was seeing Thomas. And to be honest, I always thought that he was the doubter, and I always preach, don't be like him, always on the downside. What can you say to us about this book and how it can help people today?
Well, how it relates to what we've been talking about today really is this idea that so many of us have doubts, so many of us have challenges in life, so many of us feel frail in our walk. And through the life of Thomas, we actually see somebody who, once they encounter the risen Jesus, has their life transformed and then realizes the power of a one-to-one encounter. He has a one-to-one encounter with the resurrected Jesus that changes everything. And he then takes that one-to-one encounter into the rest of his life. And the world is changed by the power of what God does through him and his buddies and the rest of the early church. So we hope that this book, alongside all of our other resources that we have in advance, can be an encouragement to your personal faith, but also the evangelism that flows from it. Thanks so much for tuning in to Advance Inspire today. We will see you in the next episode.
See you guys.
We hope that you enjoyed the show. Make sure you don't miss out on what's coming up on Message Live. All you need to do is like our Facebook page, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and click the bell to receive notifications and the latest news of Message Live.